And we are live. Thank you guys for coming. Last week we were not on because I was in San Francisco, and I do intend to talk about that. It was a really cool trip. But for the moment, I figured we'd just we'd cut to the chase. Is that what it is? Not jumping to the chase. We're cutting to the chase. And we will bring on Alpha Force Zero. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So Alpha Force Zero, as many of you know, is my daughter. Her real name is Kylie. And usually so when I created the podcast, I scheduled it so that she would be at her grandma's house, because she goes to her grandma's house on Sunday nights. And, and that seems like the perfect time for me to do the podcast. So she didn't have to sit in a room and stay silent the whole time, right? Well, people have been asking me to bring her on the podcast for a while, and it just so happens that there's no school tomorrow, so her grandma didn't keep her tonight. So yeah, I figured I'd bring her on and talk to her and kind of get her story. So her name is Kylie. Her real name is Kylie. I'm sure most people know that. So how old are you, Kylie?
9.
When's your birthday?
January.
January what?
21st.
January 21st. Okay. And that's 2009, right?
Yep.
So you're 9 years old. You're going to be 10 in just a couple of months. That's pretty exciting. What are you hoping to get for your birthday? Anything special or
really
Christmas,
know.
either one. What are you shooting for Christmas? What do you hope Santa will bring you?
Maybe like a flip book kit or something.
Okay. Why'd you chuckle?
Because.
What? You certainly believe in Santa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Because he's real. Anyways. Okay, so let me just give a little bit of background on Kylie's situation. So when Kylie was really young, my mom would take her to the meetings with her. And I wasn't really that worried about it because it was, she's so young, she couldn't really understand what was being said anyways. Well, time goes on, and she continues to go to the meetings, and I started to realize, and more specifically, her mom started to realize it was a bad idea to let her continue to go to the meetings. So I had to cause a problem over it. I had to tell her, I don't want you taking her to the meetings or talking to her about Jehovah. I want to teach her anything about religion. So can you just leave religion out of it, right? Well, throughout, over the past few years, there have been times when I allowed her to go to the meeting with my mom for one reason or another. So, Kylie, do you remember going to any meetings or going in service? Can you tell me a story about when you went in service with Grandma?
Well, I didn't really do much when I went in service with Grandma. I just I kind of stood there next to her. I didn't really say anything.
Okay. Did you ever knock on any doors or anything?
I did knock on a few doors, but I didn't say anything like I just said a second ago.
Okay, so you just kind of stood there and let her do her little presentation and just stood there and looked pretty.
Yeah.
Right, got you. Okay, interesting. Do you remember, did they play any kind of Bible games or anything when you were in the car? What happened? What kind of things did they talk about or do in the car?
They just talked about sometimes when in service I would be really happy because we were going to go to eat. They would be talking about where we're going to eat, not really much.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I remember I feel like it was, let's see, I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I remember going out in service and being all excited to go eat and all that other stuff. They had a Tim Hortons nearby. It was like a donut place, and we'd go there every single Every single time we went in service, we'd go eat at Tim Hortons. I don't know what it was with Jehovah's Witnesses and donuts, but it's like the happening spot for Jehovah's Witnesses. Did you ever get donuts when you went?
Yeah, most of the time we go to like Dunkin' Donuts.
Really?
Most of the time. Yeah.
What is this? What is it with Jehovah's Witnesses and donuts? I don't understand. What is happening here? That's funny.
That is why I would be really excited to go.
Yeah, I do.
I get donuts.
Yeah, there's like a ritual behind it almost. Like, you show up at the Kingdom Hall and you go through the little service meeting and then you go knock on the doors. And then a few hours later, you go get donuts or you go get food or something.
Yeah.
And it is, I don't know. There's an enjoyable aspect to, I guess, hanging out with friends or people in a car and talking to them and then going and getting food. Like, there is an enjoyable aspect to that, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I know when I was, I think I talked about this on my main channel, but when I was, when I went in service with some Jehovah's Witnesses from this area, I remember them playing these Bible games where it was like, somebody would think of a Bible character and we would have to ask questions about that Bible character to figure out who it was. I don't know if you did any of that. Did you ever play any of that stuff?
No, we never even played games.
Interesting. So what did you do? Was it just like getting in the car and then just going door to door? Was it pretty serious or?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. You had some friends up there too, right? Like some Jehovah's Witness friends. If you do, don't say their last names.
I don't even know the last name, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, but you had some Jehovah's Witness friends up there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like Nora or something like that, I think.
Yeah, Nora.
Yeah.
And Kyrie.
Right. That's pretty interesting.
Not Kylie.
Not
Kyrie.
Kylie, but Kyrie with an R. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, my mom, she lied a lot and told me she wasn't going to talk about Jehovah and all that other good junk when she was talking about Jehovah with Kylie. And she called it theocratic warfare. I mean, that is what it's called, where they lie and cheat and manipulate and steal and do whatever it takes to further the goals of the Watchtower Society. As long as it's in service to the Watchtower Society, then it's okay. They're okay to lie. And that is how my mom justified lying to me, telling me she was not going to talk to Kylie here about Jehovah's Witnesses, but did anyways. So, I'm just like, a while back, I remember, Kylie, you said you wanted to get baptized as Jehovah's Witness. This has been probably, I think you were 7, so a couple of years now, right? How do you feel about that now?
I don't know. I don't know why I wanted to.
Yeah, well, I remember at the time you said...
I know what I said. I think I know.
I think you said that you just wanted to, like, get baptized. You just wanted to be in the water and get baptized, just to go through the process or whatever. But
I'm pretty sure this is what I said. I want to get baptized because I want to get dunked into a big pool at the meetings.
Right. And then I told you that you could do that, but you'd have to do it at Mama's church instead of the Kingdom Hall, right? Yeah. Of course, I find it interesting that Jehovah's Witnesses commonly want children to get baptized earlier and earlier, younger and younger. Like, they're pushing for 7, 8, 9 years old to get baptized. I was, I think, 13 or 14 maybe, but I was the first in my congregation, or one of the first. But I feel like if you're not old enough to get married, you're not old enough to get baptized. Like, this decision's going to affect you for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me that somebody that's 7 years old could not possibly understand the consequences behind what they're doing. You know, as far as if you had gotten baptized, you would have had to have stopped talking to me, for example.
Yeah, just ignored you completely.
Our relationship definitely would have changed. Of course, you lived with me, so you wouldn't completely be able to ignore me or anything, but our relationship would change permanently, probably.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just like, it's like grandma's goal was just to get you baptized and forget any of the consequences that come along with it. Just get you baptized and her job is done, kind of thing, you know. And that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know. I mean, she's a good person in her heart, really. I really believe that grandma is a good person in her heart. She has people's best intentions at heart. I just think that she has a warped idea of what's best for people. She thinks that Jehovah's Witnesses are the best option for everybody. If people just join the religion, their lives will be fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I think that she has everyone's best intentions at heart. She is a good person. She just has a warped view of what's best, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I am so glad that you don't have this desire to get baptized anymore, because that seriously worried me for a while. I was quite concerned. But anyways, yeah. Was there anything that you wanted to say to like fans, or anything that you wanted to talk about, or anything before I move on to another subject?
We do have some questions for her.
Oh, really? Okay. Do you want to answer some questions, Kylie?
Sure.
Okay, let's have them.
All right. First one was, how old were you when you stopped going to meetings?
She may not. She may not remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I remember she was about 3 when I drew a hard line. And she was going to every meeting up until about 3 years old. But then she kind of sporadically went to one here or there from then on.
Yeah, but you still go when you're with grandma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I go with grandma. I don't have anywhere to go while she's at the meeting, so.
Right. So if she does end up going to grandma's for the summer, which hasn't happened the past couple of summers, she has no option but to go to the meetings, because, you know, that's where my mom's going. My mom is watching her, and what you gonna do? So anyway, next question.
All right, you're gonna like this one, babe.
Okay.
What do you think about Lunchables?
I love them.
She's a big Lunchable fan. But I've kind of cut down on how much I buy them. Like, usually I'll just buy, like, sandwich
Why don't you
stuff.
tell him favorite Lunchable?
Nachos.
She likes pizza pretty well, too. Nachos and pizza.
Yeah, that was my most common one. But now I mostly eat nachos.
All right, now we have the obligatory child question. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Scientist.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah.
What kind of scientist? Any specific, or just want to be a scientist?
Just scientist.
Okay. Like, I know that a lot of... Was that the last question, by the way, Crate?
Yes.
Okay. I know a lot of people aspire to different things. Like, a lot of people will aspire to be politicians or, you know, actors or something like that. But I feel like scientist is an underrated occupation. Of course, you know, you're going to want to get more specific than just scientist. Like, you could be a chemist or a geologist or something.
Yeah.
But
I think chemist.
People do underestimate the value, you know. I know that my plans for you are I'm hoping that you're going to get a doctorate degree at a university. 8 years.
Mhm.
So you're in 4th grade right now.
Yeah.
So that means you have 8 years of grade school remaining, and then 8 years of college. So that's 16 years to go, plus 4 years of interning if you wanted to be a doctor or something. So, anyways, yeah. I don't know. It's just like I think it's an undervalued occupation generally as scientist. I don't know why more people I don't know why more politicians aren't scientists. Why do we have lawyers universally renowned for being lying, cheating scumbags? You know, I mean, not all lawyers are like that, obviously. There are some really good people who are lawyers, but the stigma, the stereotype of lawyer is scumbag. And all of our politicians are lawyers. Why don't we have any scientists for politicians? It kills me. Like, they're not thinking critically here. Anyways, yeah, that was my little rant. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me, Kylie. I should get you on again one of these days. Was there anything else that you wanted to say or anything before you mute and I move on?
Actually, yeah. So, remember when we were talking about Grandma?
Yeah.
So, one of the times she brought me to a meeting, she had to actually go up on stage and talk.
Oh, yeah? She had a presentation?
Yeah, and we were sitting pretty far in the back next to my friend.
Mm.
She just left me sitting there, so I could have walked away.
Oh, really? Yeah, see,
Yeah.
That's the thing, is Grandma has, like, this inherent trust for anybody who is Jehovah's Witness. You wouldn't do that if you were at, like, a bus station or something. You know, you wouldn't just leave a kid sitting there. I think generally Jehovah's Witnesses have such a kinship with each other that it's probably safe. I mean, I don't think anybody would walk off with a kid. I don't know how old you were. You're probably 6 or 7 or something.
Yeah,
but
probably.
I don't think anybody would walk off with you. But the fact that, you know, that just goes to show what kind of an inherent trust Jehovah's Witnesses have for each other. It's really fascinating to see, like, this weird kinship that they have with each other. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to her. And like I said, maybe I'll get her on another one of these days. But go ahead and mute, and I'm going to move on to another subject. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah.
In closing, I want to say for anyone thinking
people are
of
quitting
kidnapping.
The podcast. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I want to say for anyone thinking of kidnapping our child, she does know self-defense quite well.
She does, yeah. I taught her some things that'll protect her, so she's in good shape if that happens, I think. But anyway, so yeah, this last Sunday I went to San Francisco. It was pretty fun, actually. I had a really, really good time. Got to hang out with a genetically modified skeptic and Holy Kool-Aid and some other pretty cool people. It was really fun. We spent a lot of our time in my hotel room playing Super Smash Brothers for the Nintendo 64. Of course, I bought this copy of Super Smash Brothers, and I was putting it, so I have these game cartridge holders, right? They're these 3D printed cartridge holders, cartridge stands. And so I put the game in and they fit perfectly. Well, I go to put Smash Brothers in and it's like too big for the stand. I was like, what's going on here? This is weird. It's perfectly sized for a Nintendo 64 cartridge. And so I kind of look around at the game a little bit. I'm like, what is this? And I look at the back because there's a sticker, or it's not a sticker. It's a stamp. There's a stamp with a number on every single Nintendo game. And on the Nintendo 64 games, it's on the back. So I shine it in the light to kind of check the stamp. It's imprinted in it. And there's no stamp on this game. There's a stamp on every single other Nintendo 64 game I own. just not a stamp on this one. So I'm like, what is happening? Well, it turns out the labels looked way too new. The game was just absolutely pristine. And at that point, I kind of realized that it was a reproduction cartridge that I got my hands on. So I end up getting my screwdriver set and opening the cartridge, and I see on the cartridge all over the place, there's silk screen, the word Korea all over. That was my clue. It's fake. It was reproduced in Korea. A real one would say Nintendo on it, and it was even missing this little chip that Nintendo puts on. So usually most Nintendo 64 games have 4 chips on them. Well, this one only had 3. That 4th chip is a Nintendo specific one that's kind of like a copyright thing. So anyways, it turns out the save battery on that was also just completely missing. Save battery was gone, so I couldn't save any games. But yeah, I ended up getting my money refunded and getting a real copy. But I wanted to keep this reproduction because it's kind of a part of history. I mean, this thing is just absolutely flawless. It seriously fooled me at first glance. That's how good it was. But anyway, so I bring this reproduction to San Francisco with me. And Holy Kool-Aid and Genetically Modified Skeptic, we all sat around in my room playing Smash Brothers. And it was just a really, really good time. They were playing it so much. They played it so much that we unlocked the item menu. That means we have to play 100 versus games to unlock the item menu. And we unlocked like a bunch of different secret characters and everything, all while leaving the game running because we couldn't save it. We kept the Nintendo 64 running this whole time because we couldn't save the game. It was awesome. It was a really, really good time. But yeah, as far as the conference itself goes, it was a good conference. So a lot of you guys know that I don't really like to take a position on the whole SJW thing, right? I was watching MythCon recently, and I heard them saying on stage, I don't know who it was just a bunch of people from the old atheist community. They said, the question was, has the atheist community completely died? Does it even exist anymore? Because they all moved to politics. And that kind of made me laugh a little bit, because it's like, yeah, they all moved to politics, and we came in and filled that vacuum. Me, Genetically Modified Skeptic, and Holy Kool-Aid, and Apologia, and Godless Cranium, and all of them. Cosmic Skeptic even. We've all come in and filled that vacuum, that gap that's missing, because they moved to politics and SJW issues and all that good stuff. Personally, I don't take a position on SJW stuff generally. I don't talk about, I'm not an anti-SJW, I'm not an anti-SJW, I'm not an SJW. I felt like there weren't enough people talking about atheism anymore. And that is why I started YouTube. So, in fact, that's why a lot of us started YouTube a few years ago, back in 2016, 2017, because there was just nobody else doing it. They all felt like they were burned out, like all the arguments had been argued already. But you know what? There is always somebody out there, somebody walking out of religion, walking out of their church for the first time and saying to themselves, you know what, I don't think I believe this. I think this is complete garbage. There's always a Jehovah's Witness sitting in their house erasing their browser history because they don't want their wife to find out they were on ex-Jehovah's Witness forums. They don't want their parents to find out they've been watching Telltale videos or John Cedars videos or something like that. There will always be somebody out there doing that. And whether those arguments have been argued a billion times or not, somebody needs to be here talking about this for those people. I don't care if people feel like I'm repeating myself. I won't stop until there's no air in my lungs anymore. because there will always be a need for this. So, anyways, I just thought it was funny that, these people are saying the atheist community is dead, complete lack of self-awareness, not realizing that's a group has risen from the ashes to replace them. Anyways, yeah, so Freedom from Religion Foundation, I want to get back to this. So FFRF, it was a really good trip. And here's the thing. Yeah, so I was saying that there's, I don't take a stand on the SJW issue, but I do recognize that Islam is something that needs to be addressed. We need to talk about Islam. We need to talk about the fact that people are being killed right now because they don't believe it anymore. Need to talk about the fact that there's a guy in prison sentenced for 10 years, 1,000 lashes, Raif Badawi. And I think he's 6 or 7 years into his sentence right now. And he doesn't even realize people know his name. His wife showed up to FFRF to give a speech there and to accept an award in his place because he's been in prison for 6 or 7 years. And his kid, he hasn't seen his wife or his kid in 6 or 7 years. It is so important that we talk about this. I mean, SJW issues aside, I think it's way overblown. I think the vast majority of people know that Islam is a problem and it needs to be addressed. It's a very small minority of people who say Islamophobia is a problem, we shouldn't criticize Islam, blah, blah, blah. The people are out there. They are. And they're wrong. We need to address it. That's as far into the SJW debate as I want to get. But FFRF definitely addressed Islam the right way. They didn't hide from it. They didn't shy away. They put multiple ex-Muslim speakers on stage, Sarah Hyder and a bunch of others, and they did a really fantastic job. I really deeply believe in what FFRF is doing. In fact, I'm hoping to make a video about FFRF soon, talking about what they do and why we should support them. I mean, I went there not knowing anything about FFRF, Freedom from Religion Foundation. I mean, almost nothing. And I walked out of there prepared to donate my own time and money, whatever it takes to further their goals. Because these guys are the people you call when a teacher is forcing her students to pray with her in the mornings. These are the people you call when some politician uses government money to put a cross in a public park or something. I mean, these are people fighting for us. These are people who are doing something that I don't know of any other organization doing. And I am, for one, am honestly really glad to know that this organization exists. Really, really glad to know it exists. So, anyway, Crate, do we have any questions or anything for me before I go to guests?
Yeah, just a second. Someone just said, I am the true mountain mama, and I recommend we ban them immediately.
The true mountain mama.
They just found out we're from West Virginia. Okay, so first question.
Okay.
What do you print most often on your 3D printer, and what was your most recent print?
Interesting question, actually. Well, as many of you may know, I collect retro games. I collect like Super Nintendo games and Sega Saturn games, PlayStation, Nintendo 64, so on and so forth. Game Boy, a lot of Game Boy games. So typically what I'm printing is either LED housing for like to get the LEDs to focus the light, so I can hang them up on the shelves, and the light will shine in the correct direction on the games. Or I'll be printing stands, like game stands or console stands, or any number of things like that. I do a lot of that stuff. And I was actually just modeling a 3DS game stand. I only have like 8 3DS games or something like that. It's like Zelda, Link Between Worlds, and Metroid, and just a few others like Smash Brothers, things like that. So I think I have like 7 or 8 of them, and I just designed in Blender this 8-game stand for the 3DS games. And I just finished printing that like probably 20 minutes ago. Or no, it was actually 40 minutes. It was about 20 minutes before the podcast started. It just finished printing. I'm going to have to remodel it, though. I think it's a little bit like the holes where you put the games is a little bit too wide. So I need to narrow those holes down a little bit. But yeah, so that's mostly what I print. And I found out like some libraries will charge like 20 cents per gram to print stuff, right? I added it up. And if that's the price we're going by, of course, that's not the price I pay. I'm paying like 2 cents per gram, basically. Because it's like $20 per spool. I have like thousands of dollars worth of 3D printed stands. So, I mean, I paid, what, like $100 total, maybe, for all the spools. But, when you scale it up to 20 cents a gram, it's so much money. Because I've been printing for months and months and months. But anyways, yeah, so that's what I printed last. Do we have another question?
Yeah.
I'll take
are you
one
going
more.
to? Okay, you going to any more conventions besides Dallas? Specifically Arizona from Minestrone.
Arizona. I don't know of any that are happening in Arizona, but I do like to go to as many conferences as possible. I like to make my name known. I like to show people who I am. Kind of reach out to the mainstream atheists, basically, because YouTube is not as well respected or as well known as a lot of mainstream atheists. So ultimately, my goal would be to speak at conferences. That's my main goal. And I would definitely like to go to as many as I possibly can. That would be fun. So yeah.
I wanna give you one last question because it's really short.
Okay.
Who do you main in Smash?
Samus. I always play Samus. It's really, I mean, and I'm really glad that Samus is in every single one. Usually I'll sit on the sidelines and snipe people with my giant gun. I am so good at firing that gun and predicting movements. Like, I can almost always hit people no matter what. Like, no matter how far across the screen we are. Anyways, yeah, that's who I play. But, yeah, okay. Well, let's move on to guests. Let's see. So the first one I have here is Fez, I believe. Let me find the F's here. Okay, there we go. Are you there? Can you hear me, Fez?
Yeah, I can.
So how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about you?
Not too bad. We've not talked on here before, right?
No, we haven't.
So tell me, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious, or?
No, I was originally Mormon.
Oh, really? Okay. When did you leave? Like, how long have you been on the outside?
Around the end of May of this year.
Okay, it's not been too long then, huh? Let's see, June, July, August, September, October, November. So like 6 months roughly.
Yeah, it was kind of a journey because like I was always raised in this super like religious household,
Yeah.
you know, and like to not believe is like something that was unheard of, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't really stop believing because of like I didn't look at any sort of like anti-Mormon stuff. It's just I kind of stopped feeling the spirit, as they say,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And like they what sorry
No, that's fine. No problem.
yeah, I just kind of like stopped feeling it. And then I remember I went to a church camp that I'd go to every year. And while I was there, I was like, yo, God, you know, if you're there, let me know here. You know, I haven't been feeling you in months. Like,
Yeah.
let me know. And I go there. And at the time, I was like dealing with depression and everything. And I go there, and their motto is, if you're unhappy, just choose Jesus.
Of course.
And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm out.
Right? That was the one thing that kind of drove it over the edge, huh?
Yeah.
That's really
And then
interesting.
after that, I kind of like, I found a video on YouTube that talked about Mormonism, and then from there I found your channel and then a few others, and
Very nice.
then I'm here.
That's awesome. Oh man. So I didn't actually know Mormons had like a church camp kind of thing. Is that a Mormon driven function or?
Basically anything that like promotes Mormonism is funded by their church, so it's hard to say exactly what's like actually by them and what they just fund. I think it's by them, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's this week-long camp at some locations. You go to like a college, and then like they spend the entire time talking about Jesus or whatever. I used to go to it all the time. I used to love to look forward to it back when I was religious, and then by the end I was just kind of like, eh.
Right. Super interesting. So like it was like once a year then, right?
Yeah, every summer. It was, for me, it was usually around whenever
Was it for a week
school
or
ended.
2 weeks or?
Yeah, it was for about a week. It was Monday to Friday.
Okay. So what did you do when you got there? You said you looked forward to it, right?
Yeah, I actually think I still have an old schedule from it if you want to know the exact
Yeah,
specifics.
sure. Why not? We'll take a look. Do you have it with you?
Yeah, just give me a second. I have it
Okay.
in one of these little bins. I used to like treasure them. Yeah, I
Right.
found it.
That's cool.
Yeah, so everything was laid out for you, like exact. You
Yeah.
get there on Monday, they give you this little book that has the schedule in it. It has like places to keep notes, it has the lesson topics that it's gonna say.
Yeah.
And so like, you get there on Monday, and you're supposed to like meet with your little company, as they say, which is like the little group that you're in, and then you like go to an orientation, you go to dinner, you go to like do family home evening, as they call it.
Right.
And then like you go to bed, and then like Tuesdays were nothing too special. It was just, classes. But then
Right.
there was a dance. Mormon dances are terrible.
I know. I
Like,
got to like, what did they even do at those dances? Because you know what I've heard that dancing is a vertical expression of a horizontal desire. Is that a fact?
I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that.
Oh no, never mind. I forgot Alpha Force Zero's in here. I'm not gonna elaborate any more than that. We'll just go with that.
Okay.
But anyways, so yeah, that's really crazy. So they had dances. What were the dances like?
When I was younger, I used to love them. Looking back on them, they were really bad.
Yeah.
One thing about Mormon dances is that you are heavily pressured into asking people to dance. Like, they have slow songs that'll come in every now and then. And like, in the case of like the camps, it was actually required. Like, you had to ask girls to dance.
Really?
Like, you had to. In some of the local stake dances, it wasn't required, but like, there would be people that would go around and look for anyone who's like standing off by the side, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, go ask a girl to dance, she's probably feeling lonely or whatever. And like, I never
You weren't
did
really
well with new
into
people.
it, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and so I would always hide during those times and everything, and it was always kind of like a little game. I'd have to like find somewhere to hide. They would like patrol the area. They'd figure out exactly
God.
where people would hide. Like, it was honestly kind of intense, and so it
Oh
was almost like
man.
a little game to me of like sneaking around, trying to like blast through the song,
Right? Oh man, that sucks. By the way, on that note, actually, I was gonna ask because you said it was like really regimented. Did you ever
Yeah.
end up going on a mission or?
I did not actually, and that was another thing that actually kind of was setting me over the edge, was because like, if you don't go on a mission, like,
Yeah.
people talk, like
Oh,
they
yeah.
act like people don't talk. Officially church leaders are like, yeah, don't judge them, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But people talk. I remember talking. I remember I heard about like this good friend of mine's older brother. I forget his name right now, but like, he came back early from his mission, and I remember thinking, oh, like, I bet something sinful happened. And
Oh
like,
yeah. Yeah, because
people,
if you don't
yeah,
serve the whole mission, then something went wrong. Something happened,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And I actually specifically remember hearing that like, apparently the reason why he came back was because like, he had some sort of allergy to the food they served there or something like
Oh,
that. And
okay.
I was
Well,
always like,
that's not bad then.
yeah, but I mean, I remember back when I was like little and judgmental, being like, oh, well, I bet that's just a lie. I bet
Oh,
something
yeah.
bad happened,
Right.
like, just kind of the mentality that you get in.
Yeah.
And like, to me, going on a mission always seems really painful. It never seems like something I really wanted to do. And
Right.
like even church for me was always something I never really wanted to do, you know. But
Yeah.
like they kind of instill in your mind that you have to. And I began to realize that I was like starting to dread a mission and everything since I'm 17 now. I'm turning 18 up in next May,
Right.
and like it would be coming up. And I remember talking to my sister, who was actually the first one to leave, about it and everything, and she was like, well, I don't mean to like press on your beliefs or anything, but like if you don't feel like that'd be a good experience for you, you shouldn't have to go, you know? And she was
Right.
talking about like I should think what makes me happy. And I
Well,
was
that's
like,
good, right?
yeah, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's what really got me to like think, okay, I kind of don't want to do that. And then that kind
Yeah.
of was one of the things that really sparked it, you know?
Well, that's super interesting. Yeah, I know that. So I've heard that the Mormon leadership kind of talk a lot about how you should be going on missions, how this is kind of a mandate from God and things like they've had
Yeah.
like commercials about going on missions and things. So I know it's a big deal. And I know that
Yeah.
they've talked about not being judgmental and things like that before. Do you think that
Yeah.
they do you think that they could do a better job of telling people to not be judgmental? Now, give me your honest assessment of that. I'm wondering if you personally think they could do a better job or if they're doing an okay job as is.
That's kind of a difficult question because I think overall missions should not be mandated. Like they should
Yeah.
not tell people you have to go.
Yeah.
And so as long as they're telling people that you have to go, there's gonna be people talking. You
Oh,
know, like it
sure.
doesn't matter. Like even if you're like doing the best that you can to like tell people not to talk, if it's a requirement, people will talk, you
Sure.
know.
Sure.
I feel like it could definitely be improved upon. You know, they could
Mm.
definitely make it more of like a topic of like don't, you know, judge other people just for not going on a mission. But
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're necessarily doing a really bad job. I just
Okay.
think that since it's a requirement, people are gonna do it.
Right. Really interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about all that. That's been super
Yeah.
interesting. Maybe I'll talk to you again one of these days, okay?
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Mormonism is really similar to Jehovah's Witnesses in many ways, but at the same time, it's really different in many ways. I think that missions are basically just like this big, long, like 2 year brainwashing session. It's pretty much all it is. Because everything is super regimented. You have to get up at this time. You have to do this at that time. You can only talk to family through the approved channels, at approved times, so on and so forth. And that programs people for life. I mean, people that leaves an impression on somebody where you leave the country, usually, or at the very least leave the area, and now you're 100% dependent on this church. I mean, your whole life is in their hands. A lot of the time, you don't even speak the local language. You rely on this church to survive for 2 years. And in that 2 years, they break you down and build you up in their own image. And so, anyways, I don't know. Mormonism is not as intense as Jehovah's Witnesses in a lot of ways. For example, they don't really shun, or it's not mandated. It's not mandated that you should shun. Like I said, they don't go out of their way to prevent people from shunning. They don't say, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's wrong. Which in itself, to me, is the Mormon church not doing enough to prevent it. But yeah, I mean, they still break you down and build you up in their own image. They still do that. That's still a thing. So, yeah, that's really interesting. Glad I could get you on, Fez, and talk to you about that. So the next person on the list is Help the Bohemian Geologist, it looks like. Let's see. Are you there? Can you hear me? Oh, Hep J. HEPJ. Are you there? Testing. 1, 2, 3. No? The Bohemian geologist? Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought that person was next. Apparently, it's not. The next person is Ketchum.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can.
How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. So, we haven't talked on here before, have we?
No, we have not.
So, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious, or?
I'm not still religious. I was Islamic.
Really? You were Islamic? Okay. So, tell me what it was
Yes.
like growing up in Islam.
My parents did push quite a few things, but we didn't
Sure.
generally go to the mosque, as the mosque didn't really like my dad because he asked too many questions.
Right. Really? He asked too many, like your dad asked too many questions.
Yeah, but my dad was still religious after that. We do go from time to time for different events like Eid,
Right.
uh, but yeah, we don't go there for
Okay. So
general
is it like, you don't have to tell me this if you don't want to, but is it North American or is it Middle Eastern? Is that where you live or?
I live in Canada.
Oh, okay. Canada. That's cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Canada is largely secular. I imagine there probably,
Yeah.
I mean, there couldn't possibly be very many Muslims in that area. I imagined that they would be pretty liberal. Are they pretty liberal or are they kind of intense? Is it intense to be in that environment or?
Where I live, it's primarily actually Middle Eastern people, but
Mm,
that's just my certain segment.
right.
So
So it's
yeah,
kind
there
of
are
like a
quite a
little
few Muslim
pocket
Muslims here.
of people
Yeah.
who are Middle Eastern. Interesting.
But yeah, actually one time my brother he started crying in the car because of something the imam said one time, which is just basically a speaker.
Right, I was gonna
Which
say, yeah,
basically,
what is an imam? But go on with the story. We'll ask those questions in a minute.
yeah, okay. So basically he said as which is quite known, it's mandatory to pray 5 times a day, and one of them is extremely early in the morning.
Right.
Quite a few times it'll be at like 3 a.m. or so, and the imam said that if you don't wake up, if your kids don't wake up for that, which again like 3 in the morning on like
Right.
school days and such,
Right.
on weekends and school days, then you should beat them.
Wow,
And so
really?
oh yeah, no, my parents are kind of, yeah.
So they didn't agree with that, I guess. Like your parents didn't.
Well, they didn't beat us for that reason, but for other things.
Right, right, okay. So they weren't necessarily opposed to the idea. That wasn't one of the extreme things that they disagreed with.
Yeah.
So
I would
were
say
there
so.
other extreme things that they did disagree with?
I don't believe so.
Really? They were kind of on the same page with all of it. So what was it that got them to leave?
I don't. My dad didn't really go much into it. It was.
Mm. It was just
It
some
was
kind
just
of circumstance that got him to leave.
well,
So,
not to leave because like he is still in many connections with all the people there
oh,
and
okay.
such. But we just don't go that often because
Okay.
some of the people there kind of dislike my dad and have
Oh, that sucks.
even actually told some people to just stay away from him, to not talk to
Wow.
him.
That's insane. I know like Jehovah's Witnesses are really tribalistic and you say or do just the wrong thing. Even in their
Oh
eyes,
yeah.
not even in the religion's eyes, and suddenly they're shunning you basically. They're not talking to you or they dislike you for this reason or that reason, even if you're not out of the religion or anything.
Yeah,
So
no,
that
that's
happens.
entirely how it's like.
Yeah. I mean it's kind of extremist by nature. So you don't believe it anymore.
No, I don't.
What was it that kind of got you out to stop believing it?
Some parts I found kind of odd, like for instance, just like the story of Adam and Eve and such, which I realized kind of conflicted with modern science, and
Right.
then, but actually one of the main things that got me out was YouTube.
Oh, awesome.
I'd found Professor Stick channel through some
Oh,
some
awesome.
of his flat Earth stuff. Then I found some of Vice Rhino stuff, your stuff, and yeah.
Very nice. Yes.
After a while.
Yeah, I haven't collabed with Viced Rhino yet, but one of these days I really should. He seems pretty legit. I've never even talked to the dude before, but he is in some of my like YouTuber groups. He's in some of the groups I hang out with. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I'm glad to hear that you found your way out, though, because that that can be pretty toxic environment sometimes. Just religion
yeah.
in general, you know.
Yeah.
So I assume your parents don't know that you don't believe it anymore. Is that right? Or
Nope, they don't.
what do you think
They
they'd
don't.
do if they did know?
Possibly throw me out, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what my parents did, was throw me out. So I'm on the same page. Well, it could be worse, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it could be.
there are some areas which are pretty bad, but
They're not throwing people off of roofs.
right,
so.
right. Yeah, I mean that does happen in some places like Yemen and stuff, I think, and
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia. So that, like I said, it could be worse. That's something, but
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me, and I'm so glad that you're watching my channel and that you kind of come out and realize that it's all BS. That makes me pretty happy to hear. But yeah, maybe we'll talk again sometime, okay?
Possibly.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. I really don't cover Islam very much. In fact, I've only covered it a couple of times. And the reason for that is because I feel like the audience that I work with the most are not really affected by Islam mostly. I think the people who are mostly affected by Islam are people in the Middle East, and they really don't watch my channel very much. I mean, of course, it affects other people. It's not just people in the Middle East, obviously. Just talk to somebody from Canada. But I've felt like up to now that mostly the people who watch my channel are people from the North America region who are heavily invested in, or who were at the very least heavily invested in cults. And so that's what I talk about. But I don't know. One of these days I'll probably do a couple videos on Islam, because it is important in its own right. It is. In fact, in many ways, it's more important. It's just not a pressing matter in the lives of many of my subscribers, but it is, it does deserve its place in my library of videos. So I probably will end up doing that. Okay. Time to speak with the last person, the Bohemian genealogist, I guess. Are you there? Can you hear me? Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, hello.
I haven't had you on before, have I?
No.
So what religion were you originally? Are you still religious, or?
I was born Jewish.
Oh, really? You were born Jewish. You're not Jewish anymore, though, or?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
I still.
You still what?
I celebrate Hanukkah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I've never celebrated Hanukkah. I have a friend I worked with. He was a coworker at my last company. He is Jewish, and every Christmas time he would tell me like these stories about, his family and how they'd celebrate Hanukkah and the things that they'd do, and I guess they'd sit around and tell stories from. It's not the Torah, but it's like I can't remember.
Habak?
What is it?
The Habak?
That may be. It's like a book that just kind of has stories and stuff in it. I feel like it's something to do with the Maccabees. Does that ring a bell?
No.
No. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, he'd tell me some stories. Pretty interesting stuff. So, do you still believe it?
No. I'm atheist.
So what was it that kind of got you over the edge to stop believing it?
Nothing really. I mean, I got persecuted in my region.
Wait, you broke up a little bit there. What was that? You felt persecuted what?
Well, at my school.
Oh, you felt persecuted at your school?
Yeah. So I kind of just stopped being Jewish because everyone else was Christian.
That sucks. Yeah. I know that in my school there were basically two schools of thought. I've probably said this before, but there was one group of people who thought that Jewish people were God's chosen people and should be worshipped in their own right. And then there was a group of people who believed that they killed Jesus and blamed him for that. You know, I've always felt like there's a lot of weird stuff surrounding the Jewish religion that just shouldn't be there. You know, I mean, everybody is a person in my eyes. They're kind of dehumanizing people in a lot of ways when they should just realize that, you know, we're all people. You know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So that's a shame that you had to deal with a lot of that persecution and stuff, though. But honestly, it doesn't surprise me at all. So you kind of stopped claiming it as your religion after that, then, I guess.
Not really.
You still kind of claim it?
Well, yeah, because, like, a while ago was Habak Nashah, which is the Jewish holiday where the Jews got to go back to Israel, and we wear beads, and, like, I wore those to school and stuff, and it was kind of interesting.
Okay, so you wear beads for that holiday.
Yeah.
Why is that? Do you know? Like, what's the whole bit?
It's after lunch. We have to wear beads.
Right.
Because that's when the Jews got off the boats after lunch.
Okay.
And we just wear beads. I don't really know.
That's super interesting. Like, so they got off the boats after lunch, and that was kind of their time going back to Israel, you said, right?
Yes.
Super interesting. Was that in the recent history? Is that like in the 40s
Holocaust.
or whatever?
Yeah, Holocaust.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's so crazy. There's a lot of really interesting stuff relating to that whole heritage and everything. But yeah, I guess you could say Jewish people have had it pretty rough throughout history. But anyways, yeah. So was there, like, what was it that kind of drew you to this corner of YouTube? You said you're atheist, right?
Yeah.
Like, what was it that got you interested in, in YouTube atheists?
A lot of the kids younger.
Wait.
So
I kind of lost you for a second there. You said a lot of the kids what?
At my school are younger.
Oh, they're young Earth creationists, you said.
Yeah.
Right, got you. Wow, that must be hard to deal with. So, I assume that your family are not young Earth creationists.
No.
That's lucky. I've always said that Judaism is usually not an extremist religion, though there are extremist branches, off of it. And what is it?
Most people in Judaism today don't believe in God. It's just preserving the.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. My friend, my Jewish buddy that I worked with, he was actually, I think he was an atheist, but he still went to synagogue and, went through all the practices and all that good stuff. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. It's been really interesting, and maybe we'll talk again, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Really, really interesting culture. I always find it so fascinating to, like, I don't know, examine the differences between different groups of people, different cultures and things like that. But anyways, yeah, Crate, did we have any other questions or anything?
Yeah, I think we have one more question here, which is kind of a weird one, but what do you think about the Jewish faith?
Oh, that's funny. Oh man, I was just sitting here, and earlier today I was putting up new lighting on one of my shelves, and one of the lights fell, and it scared the shit out of me. Like a cat, just jump like 12 feet in the air when I hear a noise. Anyway, what do I think of the Jewish faith? I think that there are a lot of myths and ridiculous ideas surrounding the Jewish faith. And I feel like we need to put everything in perspective and we need to not dehumanize people. I think that's absolutely paramount. We need to not dehumanize people, not group them into categories or stereotypes or any of that other junk. We need to understand that people are just like us in their own ways. Everybody is in their own ways. And there's nothing special about Jewish people, and there's nothing bad about Jewish people. Because like I said a minute ago, a lot of the time you find that people usually fall on one of those two extremes. They either think they either blame them for killing Jesus, or they call them sacred because they're God's chosen people. I don't think they're sacred, and I don't think they're evil. I think they're people, just like me, just like anybody else. So that's what I think of of the Jewish religion and of Jewish people. Anyways, did we have one more?
Someone asked a question that there's no way I can pronounce. It's, will you make a video of Shinkiro?
Possibly.
Something
It
like
depends.
that?
I'll take a look at it, possibly, and
I added
and
it to the
see.
list.
Okay, cool. There you go. Crate sometimes handles my list. It depends on what's going on, but she has access to the list at the very least. But anyways, yeah, I want to thank Alpha Force Zero for coming on and talking to me. I want to thank all the other people for talking to me. Ketchum, the Bohemian genealogist, and Fez. That was the name. Couldn't remember how it was spelled. But yeah, I appreciate all of you guys for coming on and talking to me. It's been super interesting. And I'll talk to you next week.